Offense. Offense is what it took for me to understand what it meant to be a good father. I have 3 kids now, and the first one is named Mark. He's 11. And I've spent a lot of time with Mark and all of my children, but I'm going to use Mark since he's the oldest. And from the earliest age, I bought him balls, like basketballs and baseballs and footballs. And baseball is really kind of his thing. And so as he was growing up, I remember going outside with him and playing catch and working through the tiers, and then going out and swinging that bat with him and teaching him how to hit and play baseball. And then he slowly got bigger, and now he's winging that ball across the field, and he's smacking those baseballs, and he's doing such a great job. And you know, last year we went to a tournament, a Little League tournament, and he ended up being the age 10 state champions for the Little League, and I had this fence, but that's okay. And I'm going to let a comedian finish the story for me called Bill Cosby. And I spent more and more time with the child. I taught him how to be strong and how to hit things and get back up again, to play football well, to throw the ball well, to hit. And he just keeps getting better and better, spending every night with him. And then this great kid of mine gets accepted at a college, and whether that's in Arizona or Nebraska or wherever, and he makes the baseball team, and he's on TV, he's doing great, and he hits his first home run. And the camera's panned to him, and he turns around and says, "Hi, Mom." Sometimes you just don't have much control as a father. You do many things, and you teach and you coach, but then when it comes right down to it, there's offense. I've really experienced that this year when I've kind of coached him through most of his life, and this year I've kind of reached that level of incompetency as a coach, as a baseball coach, and I'm ready to hand it down. And this year I kind of let things go, and now I have to watch him behind a fence. I don't have a whole lot of control. I can teach them, but as the game's going on, we stand along the fence, thus fathers. And if you don't believe me, go to a Little League baseball game and watch all the fathers standing alongside the fence as we watch our son or daughter doing what we've coached them to do. When they watch a ball that was called a strike, we want to go coach our kid. We want to be with our kid. When that big pop fly goes zipping out there, and you know that there's 2 outs and there's bases loaded, and all he has to do is catch this thing and it's over, and we feel it, and it's in the air, that there's nothing we can do. We're behind the fence. When he's throwing those pitches and that umpire just doesn't see them as strikes, and he's got to work through it, I'm behind the fence. Today, as we start a new sermon series, we take a look at a father in a very unique situation that had to learn how to trust, obey, and live with a great amount of character, because a lot of his fathering was behind the fence. You know, Joseph was quite a unique individual and put in a very unique situation. Our sermon series is going to be talking about the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, and the why of Christmas. And what's happening as we walk through Advent. And we come upon Joseph today. Now, Joseph had come from a long line that Matthew shows descending from the great King David. And he had been betrothed to Mary. We read in Matthew, first chapter 18. This is how the birth of Jesus Christ came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph. And so in this process, what is tradition of that at that time is that the ladies or the women would get married from age 12 to 14. And the males would be about 18 to 20 years old. They did that for a couple of reasons. One, if you wanted to have children, and many of them, to start early is good. And for that time period, because of health issues, the younger the better. Also, there was a new trend going around where women were exposing their hair, letting it hang long, and the Jewish leaders felt that was too much temptation for a man to hold back, which I think is interesting, looking at today's world and what a father has to keep his eye on. And so, with those two combinations happening at the same time, the tradition was that they were to marry early, and the parents would arrange this, and with the consent of the two individuals, they would be betrothed. And this was a year-long process, similar to sort of the period just before a wedding that we would call each other fiancés, the engagement time. But for them, it was a little more legalistic than that. They were pretty much married, except for the final I do's. And they were to be separated. They were never to be together privately during this year. They were to be doing things in a public way, and no one was to be encroaching upon their relationship. But there was pretty much marriage at the time. Now, during this time period, Mary, who we will find just through what we read, Joseph pretty much loved, ends up becoming pregnant. And of course, this pregnancy was something very special. This was a pregnancy of the Holy Spirit, where an angel comes to Mary and tells her that the Holy Spirit will conceive her and the Son will be called Emmanuel, Jesus. And so now Mary has to take that to Joseph. So what would Joseph do? Well, we read, "But before they came together, she was found to be with child through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was a righteous man and did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had a mind to divorce her quickly." The tradition then, if you had an affair during this year before you were fully married, you had the right by law to stone the woman to death. If she was pregnant, well, then the same would apply, but normally didn't. Normally, it was public disgrace, and then the family would disown her, and then she would never really be able to find support from any other man within her tradition and would end up on the streets with her child. Joseph chose to do this quietly, to leave her. Now, when we talk about trust, when we talk about this Joseph, this man, think about that. How would you feel, men, or even ladies, to be put in this situation? There would be a lot circling even in today's world if this happened. So Joseph must have heard the story and probably did not trust Mary as she related it to her, and so decided to quietly divorce her in order to save her honor as best he could. And this is sort of a form of love, an action of love for him. Sort of an interesting way to start your fatherhood, to get it in that way. But the Lord would come to Joseph in a dream, and we read that next. "But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, 'Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins.'